Hey, I'm Nichboy and welcome to Pocket, and today we're gonna get dirty with Dirty Bomb. The beta, dirty. So dirty. New set. Dirty Bomb is a new free-to-play class-based shooter from Splash Damage, who are most notable for making Brink. Remember Brink? Of course you don't. Now, it's been a while since I've played a class-based shooter, probably Team Fortress 2, and I think the game knows that it's been a while for many of us since we've played this kind of game, so it does a pretty good job of explaining why this is different than sort of Call of Duty Battlefield Team Deathmatch style gameplay. There's an opening cutscene that explains the sort of objective-based gameplay, and then the tutorial is sort of quick and sharp and just gets you up to speed with what you should be doing when you're in.
Will the attacking team finish all of the objectives in time to win the match? Or will the defenders give them first-class tickets to Pain Town?
But what you really want to do after all that is just jump in and start playing, so let's do that. Okay, so there are different modes that you can pick straight up. Not all of them are available at the moment, but the two that are here, the objective one, so that is you just need to complete all the objectives in a set amount of time. There's also a mode called Stopwatch, which means that your team needs to complete all the objectives, and then at the end of that game, you switch sides with the team you've been playing, and they need to see if they can beat your time in doing it. So everything is focused around, it's not just how many kills you get, it's about, like, are you completing these tasks in order to progress.
Objective destroyed!
So far, there's also 5 maps. We've got Bridge, Chapel, Terminal, Train Yard, and Underground. And so each of them have sort of different objectives and ways of progressing through these maps. My favorite one is actually Underground because it really feels like quite a big space that you're going through, and you can feel the distinct movement between sections of the map. And that is something that is different about these games than a sort of team deathmatch thing, is that you are moving to different parts of the map as you complete different tasks. So it really does feel like you're actually making progress. The shooting feels really good as well. The aiming feels really good. The movement is great and snappy. Changing weapons and stuff is so fast. Everything is sort of centered around you getting back into the action as quickly as possible. And I really appreciate that, because it sucks when you're playing these sorts of games and you die and you have to sort of trudge all the way across the other side of the map to just get shot in the face again by someone else. So here, even when you do need to move, you are moving relatively quickly. We'll just get out of the way of this giant beam of death, which a support character has thrown down. So one of the things that happens in here is that obviously all your characters have their own sort of like special abilities that they bring with them. So what we just saw there was like a giant laser beam of righteous hell flame that sort of comes down, that this support character throws down and can control. So there are sort of heavies who have like turrets and get out of the way of that. The healing classes like the medics, their abilities are like reviving downed players or something. And then for the assault classes, you generally carry around things like ammo packs that you can throw down and people pick up, or ammo stations, which you sort of set up, and then as you run past them, they sort of magically refill your guns. The idea behind all this is that it is trying to encourage you to work as a team, because these are team-based games. So there's a lot said then for making sure that your team not only works together in-game, but before game, you sort of figure out what you're doing, that you are rolling enough characters that have these different abilities. You've got enough healers, you've got enough support, that sort of thing. The really interesting thing about this game is that every player gets 3 characters that they take into the game and then can change every time they die. And in addition, the game is trying a sort of free-to-play roster that rotates out, like League of Legends or Heroes or something, where each time you go in, you can select from the sort of free characters who they generally try to make sure that there's one of sort of each of the main classes, or heroes that you've purchased using real money or in-game currency that are sort of always available for you to use. I found even on my first game, when I didn't have any sort of owned characters, it felt completely balanced in terms of the roster going, because there's really only 3 main classes, and you've got your heavy, medic, and then support. And so as long as there's one of those available for each one, then you can take each one of those guys into a game and you should be fine. One of the strengths of the game, I do think, is the sort of gameplay design here. With the objectives, they all feel like they should exist on the maps that you're playing. So I'm on the train yard now and I need to defend a carriage, and then I need to make sure that these guys don't capture these sort of like briefcase things that then they can airlift out. It all feels like stuff that should be happening in this space. One of the problems with Brink was that you just never understood why you were doing something. There was no cohesion to the world, and so it was like, this objective is so left field for the kinds of people that I am in the situation that I am. It just doesn't make any sense. The design of the game itself, visually, it's got a slightly cartoony look, but it's sort of cartoon realism. It's not the most brilliantly designed thing I've ever seen. Like the art, to me the art's just a bit boring. Generally with these sorts of games, I tend to prefer sort of hyper stylized as opposed to sort of realistic. So things like Team Fortress or Overwatch, that as a design are much more appealing to me than this, but it doesn't look bad by any means.
Mission accomplished.
And we won the match. And look, once you're not actually playing the game, then you want to go into your barracks and sort of start customizing your characters. The way it works in Dirty Bomb is that it's kind of like collector card loadouts. So you get a character and he's got a card, and on it there's like certain stats of like, this is the weapon that they carry and these are the augments that they have. There are 3 augment slots that can, you know, slightly faster sprinting or 10% better health regeneration, that sort of thing. You can't customize them individually. What you do is you basically collect new cards that have new abilities on them, and you collect those cards by buying them with money or in-game currency, or you get you complete challenges, and those challenges will give you sort of cases that you then open, and then in those cases there's a bunch of cards. It all is kind of like complicated, but you sort of pick it up pretty quickly. So with all those augmentations, obviously you can customize your characters. The one thing for me is it didn't feel like I could differentiate them enough for how I like to play these sort of things, that it all felt like, yeah, you've got a heavy, but your heavy is kind of like that guy's heavy or that girl's heavy. Like there's no sort of real personalization around it. And they didn't feel so different from the other classes that I went, oh, I'm so attracted to playing that class. It felt much more like, oh, do we need this? Okay, fine, I'll go with that. Weirdly enough, what the game has got me really excited for is Overwatch, because with that, the idea of playing sort of characters that have super specific abilities, that like you are the healer and your whole job is healing, and you've got super abilities all focused around this. This obviously is going for a much more realistic thing. That's fine. It's just not particularly my jam in these sort of games, but I was having fun playing with it. It would be so much better if you're playing with friends. The communication, the objective stuff really needs teamwork, and like I said, with the abilities of like throwing down ammo, you want to know that the people you're playing with are going to help you in that. So I think playing with friends will be great for this game.
Deploying airstrike, Hawkeye.
And you shouldn't actually have too much trouble convincing your friends to play, because it's out in beta at the moment, but it feels pretty feature rich as it is at the moment. It plays great and it's free. It's totally free. And the grind, if you do want to grind, is not that grindy. So it's really easy to jump in and just start playing. You don't feel like you're left behind. I think it's a really good game that could sort of build a community around it. It's far more polished than I expected it to be, and it's a lot of fun. So I will keep playing this game, at least until Overwatch comes out, then I'm gonna drop it like it's Brink. All right, that's it for today's episode of Pocket. Nichboy out.